City Matters.
Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Richard Acritelli, and on today's episode of The Fog of War and Humanity here on HMTV, my special guest to the left of me is Chad Lennon. Will join me for a conversation about his many years of military service and his political experience right now as a Suffolk County Legislator. Will join me here at HMTV. Chad, here we go. Where did you grow up as a kid?
So I grew up in Bayville, North Shore of Nassau County. I was born, we lived in Queens at first, and I think when I was about 1 year old is when my parents moved to Bayville. So I was in that neighborhood for well over 20 years, high school, even when I was in college. When I came back home from the military, I was there for a little bit, so a lot of time in Bayville.
Okay, now we're up in Glen Cove. We're at the Holocaust Museum now. We're like in that nook of the northwest corner of Nassau County. What do you remember most about being in this area?
Well, actually, I used to work in Glen Cove. I used to train and actually work at Panza Kickboxing, Panza MMA, right in Glen Cove. They eventually moved, but so I spent a lot of time in Glen Cove. I went to high school at both St. Dominic's as well as Locust Valley. So the Bayville, Glen Cove, Locust Valley, Oyster Bay area. I spent a lot of time there.
So you're still a Nassau County kid at heart, right?
I am, yes.
Right? So when you come up here, is there any one thing that you notice most, or that you have like a fond memory of?
Oh, there's so much, but what you really always notice is the changes. Like, oh, I don't remember that being there when I was younger. But no, it's great to come by. I brought my kids out here a couple of times. I still have friends in Bayville, neighbors I'm still friends with, still talk to. So bringing them out here and showing them where I grew up and was like, when I was your age, I was over here.
Yeah, sure. And you still had that sense of small town America, right? And you were on the water, and there was a lot of nice things around here.
Yeah, very similar to where I live now in Rocky Point. It's apparently I like to live in a certain area because I grew up in a certain area and I live in a certain area now.
Sure. Now, when you were in high school, did you play any sports or have any hobbies or anything like that?
Yeah, I was huge into baseball as a kid. Baseball, basketball, football. I was a Mets, Jets, and Knicks fan, so I'm mentally tough being with those teams, especially these days. But no, I loved sports. I got into boxing, mixed martial arts, and that as I got older too. So yeah, that's really what I was doing as a kid.
What position baseball wise did you?
Loved pitching.
Pitching.
I did a little outfield. I loved catching too because you were so involved with everything and having that pitching background.
Yeah, and you saw the whole field, and you were like the field general out there, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Okay, and then basketball. What position there?
More of a guard, wing.
Okay.
So I was tall, but not tall for basketball terms.
All right, but you always like being in that sense of leadership.
I guess you could look back and say a pitcher, a catcher, someone who's a guard, and football, I liked quarterback. Those are, I guess you could say, leadership positions without even realizing it. But, as I grew up and saw how important some of those positions are to teams, I guess you could say that those are leadership positions for the sports teams.
Okay. Now, you graduated from Locust Valley in what year?
1998.
1998. So what do you do after graduating?
So I remember when we were driving around for our prom, we were in the city going, I'm going to be there in a few hours as we drove by because my father put me to work the next day.
Okay.
So I worked in construction. I worked I got into the unions, Local 14. We covered the five boroughs. Pretty much any of the equipment that goes 360, carrying equipment, carrying tools, things like that is what we covered.
So you did a lot of logistics in terms of transporting.
It's the heavy equipment, so you're moving stuff.
Okay.
So I learned how to do a couple of pieces of equipment. Learned a lot, especially at 18, being in that because that's a job of somebody who is a man at that point. I was just a boy. And, getting into the adult world, it's a job of very serious people. It's a serious job. People get injured. People get killed doing it. So you have to take it serious.
Yeah, certainly some responsibilities, right?
Yes.
And then going back and forth to the city, right? And
getting up at 4 a.m, going to work. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so you learn pretty quick, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Now you're working. When do you go to college?
So I went to college right away. I first went up to Endicott up in Boston area.
Okay.
Stayed there for a semester, came back home to look at doing something different. I went to community college. I got a pretty bad car accident, so I had to go part-time, and I started working more and more with my father.
Okay.
From that, I knew I wanted to be close to where I could work, close to home, but live at school. My buddy at the time was going to Wagner College. I visited some great people there. Decided to go there, and I spent 4 years at Wagner.
Staten Island, right?
Staten Island, yes.
So now, what do you study at Wagner itself there?
I wanted to be a police officer, so I thought studying criminal justice, which you don't need to do to be a police officer now that I know that, but that's what I was looking to do.
Okay, so when you were at Wagner, you must have been there right around the time of 9/11.
Oh,
right?
yeah, so we were Wagner College is the highest point in Staten Island. And where our dorms were, you could look out most of the windows, actually, and see downtown Manhattan.
Yeah, Lower Manhattan.
And we'd go down to Manhattan all the time. It's just a ferry ride away, not that far. My father was still working. I was working in Manhattan as well from time to time. And I remember on 9/11, I walked my girlfriend at the time to class, and I look up. I go, man, that plane's low. Yeah, it is. So she goes to class. I go back. I hear a plane hit one of the towers, and you don't think anything of it. It's someone just doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, an accident, right?
Yeah. So I go up to the roof of our dorm, and I see the second plane hit. Well, it's not an accident.
Yeah.
And I remember we're all in our dorm rooms watching what's going on, and I'm thinking my father's out there, family, friends in Manhattan working. A lot of my friends did the same thing, family and friends out there.
At that point, where was your dad?
He was in Manhattan.
Was he near Lower Manhattan? Was he near
He was more Midtown.
Midtown?
Once he heard what was happening, he went to go pick up some of the family members and say, we're getting out of here. And luckily, he got out of Manhattan before they shut it down. And my cousin actually had to walk over the bridge because they wouldn't let any cars
Brooklyn
over
Bridge.
at some point. Yes, yes.
Now, was he covered in like all the Sutton and all
Thankfully,
that stuff?
No, he wasn't close to that downtown area. But I did see it. A bunch of my friends and I saw it. We felt it because where we were, you could feel the ground shaking.
Sure.
Because we're looking at the TV. We're going, wait a minute. We look out the window. Wait, what is it going down? And then you could feel it going down. You could hear it going down. And we thought we lost thousands and thousands and thousands of people in that moment.
Did the college shut down its operations because they were so tied to the city?
Yes, everything shut down. And especially once the towers went down, there was already 2 other planes that went down with the Pentagon and in Pennsylvania. And it was just rumor central. We heard that the Staten Island Mall was on fire. There were shootings, car bombs. Somebody was coming to our school to blow it up because it's the highest point in Staten Island. So it was just absolute chaos. And it was a turning point for our lives to go, we're legitimately at war. And we thought we were fighting it on our territory.
Now, you go into the military a little bit later.
Yes.
Were there moments during and after 9/11 that it started striking you that, hey, I might want to go in this direction?
I always had a thought of doing that. Once 9/11 hit, I was ready to go. My father's like, don't do anything yet. Let me come talk to you.
Get your education, right?
Because he was in the Navy, and he's like, I want you to go. If you want to go in, that's fine, but I want you to go. You have to go, officer.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'll finish school. And then I finished school, was still working, eventually went and got my master's degree, and then I eventually went into the Marine Corps.
Wow. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because we know of Michael Murphy from Patchogue and Medal of Honor recipient and officer and, Operation Red Wings. And he was going through his SEAL training at that point, and they were watching everything unfold. Mm-hmm. And one of the officers had said, this means we're at war. And in Murphy's book, Seal of Honor, it said to Gary, who's the author, Gary Williams, said he was already there because he's a Long Island kid. He's got family members that are working in the city. He had these 2 buddies. They were both twins that were like police officers and firemen. And there was like that connection. And you had that connection growing up in Nassau County, going to college in Staten Island. Your dad's working in the city. You have family members that are in there, right? You had one walk over to Brooklyn Bridge. So
yeah, I think
that's something that stays with you, I would think, right?
Absolutely. I think those of us that lived in the areas, includes the Pentagon, includes Pennsylvania areas, I think it hit us a little different because it was in our community. it definitely hit people throughout the country, but it's a different feeling when it's, this is where I live.
Yeah.
This is where I work. My family and friends and everything I know is here.
And seeing that smoke for all those days and months, and there was points where you couldn't even see Lower Manhattan.
Oh,
and
that smoke just going, yes.
They always called 9/11 the longest day in American history because it just kept on going. It kept on going and going, And you were out in Rocky Point we had a program, right?
Yes.
For 9/11. And one of the speakers that spoke with you was Frank Tepedino, the baseball player. And, he was actually the first podcast here for me. And he always said that they always had a plan down there, that they, it was amazing how bad the disaster was, but they were able to handle it and try to help people right away and go to work under just an impossible situation.
And it's just, you fall back on your training.
Yeah.
That's everything. Same thing in the military. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've heard it too, is you're going to fall back to your training because it's, okay, what do I do in such a moment of chaos? Yeah. And you think about that muscle memory. What have you done? What have you worked on and practiced?
And it's not it's we. How can what do we need a hand with, you know? And, that sort of thing. So now 9/11, right? You're at Wagner. When do you graduate from Wagner itself?
2003.
2003. So what is your process after that? Where do you go after graduating?
So I was working construction for a little while, taking those different police tests, looking at what's out there. I started doing more MMA. I started thinking about maybe going back to school for something different. And that's when I think it was about 6 months later, I went back to school to get my master's. And then I went to Adelphi.
Okay.
And then I would go to school, and I would also work at the gym teaching MMA.
How high with the MMA did you go? Because I remember the boxing from years ago, right? I grew up with the boxing, but somewhere along the line with the MMA, where I should have been watching it, I didn't, and I still don't know much about it. So was there a certain classification that you were at in terms of training and teaching?
So I got a second-degree black belt from the school I was at. I had an amateur fight. I was training for a bunch of different competitions. We had a great group of guys in the gym. Okay. So I remember every Friday we would all go sparring, and as soon as we were done, we'd go right next door to have something to eat. So we all beat each other up and then have something to eat together.
All right. So a little camaraderie, right?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So now you're doing that. You're in great shape. You're going to college. You're getting your education, right? When do you end up pursuing the military?
So I went in 2008. I was looking at all the branches. Air Force never answered my call.
Which is something, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I looked at the Army, but I saw they were doing, I think, 15, 18-month deployments. And I was like, that seems a bit excessive, which it is.
It's a long time. Yeah.
It is. I looked at the Navy because my father went in the Navy. I looked at the Marine Corps, and I thought, maybe I'll go in the Navy. My father did that. Keep it in the family of that's what he did. That's what I'll do. I remember going into Manhattan and speaking with the recruiters and watching these videos, and a Marine sergeant instructor came up, and I was like, if I'm going to go in with this, I think I like these guys.
Sure.
So started talking to Marine Corps. I liked what they had to offer, which was a huge challenge. And, if you're going to go, and I knew where I was going. If I'm going in, I'm going to Afghanistan. There's no doubt where I'm going. I want to go in with the
you're in the height of the war on terror between Iraq and Afghanistan, and a lot of troops leaving, going overseas, right?
And it was a real pullback in Iraq and a real pushing forward with Afghanistan. So we knew a surge was coming. So went into the Marine Corps, said, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
And I went forward with the Marine Corps.
So now, did you go to Parris Island or did you go straight to OCS?
Straight to OCS. So since I had a college degree, I qualified for an officer. My father was adamant that I'd go that route. So I went to OCS, which is in Quantico.
Okay.
And it was 10 weeks of officer candidate course.
Now, what were some of the things that still stay with you to this day in terms of when you're at OCS?
It is the best, worst time that you're going to have. And the most fun you never want
to have. It's kind of like
again.
MMA, right?
Yes.
Right? Or if you're a wrestler, it's the best when you're not doing it, So, all right.
But it was really interesting. I knew a lot of the games you were going to be playing as soon as you went in. Some of this is not designed for anyone to win, but just instant willing obedience to orders. But at the same time, they want to create leaders. Do you have the potential to be a leader? Because that's what they need. And they want people to be there. No one's forced to be there. You can voluntarily leave after a few weeks. And folks did. So the attrition rate, I think, was about 30%.
Okay.
But you want people who want to be there.
Pretty high. You got about a third that's just not cutting it, right? And they're leaving.
Yeah. And, a couple of folks got injured. A friend of mine broke his ankle and tried to stay with it because he was so close, but he couldn't because he couldn't do anything physically.
Now, does that keep you motivated where you see some guys that are packing their bags and they're going home where I have to stay sharp? I got to,
It might for some, but for me was I know what I want to do and I got to get done. I'm gonna do this.
Now, you playing baseball, basketball, and football, and being in some key positions, right? And then going to work and coming from a blue collar family, and your dad being military, and then going to school. You're pretty well rounded, right? All those things had to help you out. I would think, right?
I think so. I was also a little older. I wasn't the oldest there, but I was a little older, a little more real world experience. Look, you can be physically ready. That's the easy part. But the mental aspect is really what's going to drive people. So do you have the mental strength to continue on? Because some days are long. You're not,
sure.
You're up, you have fire watch, you have to get stuff prepared during the night. I remember I would get up say the fire watch, get me up at 02. I'm going to go and shave, get myself together, go back in the rack and get ready to go. So it's not like you're sleeping a full 8 hours through. And then you have fire watch. So you're up for an hour watching everything.
Taking the count. It's a responsibility. They're checking on you to make sure that you're not messing around, right? And everything's almost like a test, right? So,
the whole thing is a test the whole time.
So now at Quantico, what kind of training did you do? Did you guys go out in the field? Did you do any book work?
So you have your book of knowledge is always in your pocket. So you're always studying that, your leadership traits. We did like fire team tactics, 4-man teams. We did a couple of humps, a lot of PT. It's all about endurance, different courses, marching, a lot of that drill going on. So we were out in the field, sleeping out there a couple of times. And I went in the summer, so it was warmer out there. I think that I like the game that they play. Oh, it's 100 degrees. Yeah. It's going to be a black flag. Let's spray the area a little bit. Okay, it's nice and cool down. Good to train.
Wow. Always on your feet, right?
Always, yes.
So when you hit the rack at 8 o'clock at night?
Whatever it is,
you're
out.
Exhausted, right?
Yes. And then it's just, you got to realize, hey, I'm going to be sweating straight for the next 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Be sweaty, going to be
So you're cutting some weight also.
Oh, big time. And you're going to be stinky and you get so bad you don't even smell each other that the sergeant instructor's like, you all stink out here. It's like, I don't smell it. I'm good.
When I went in, I wrestled at 132 my senior year.
Oh, wow.
And I put on 25 pounds after the season just from drinking beer and eating, right? And not worrying about it. But they said, boy, we're going to put 10 pounds on you. I'm like, all right. And I ended up cutting it.
Yeah.
And then I was ahead of the physical fitness. I was an awful rifle shot. I can't close my other eye. But it was a physical fitness, so I just burnt everything off.
Yes.
And you're always on your feet. You're always moving. And it's
I think you're even sweating while you're eating.
Yeah.
So it's because it's also let's
you're
go,
burning everything off.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So eat now, taste later, and all that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now you graduate. Okay. So it's 2008. When do you graduate? How long does it take you about?
It's 10 weeks
10
for
weeks?
officer candidate school, or for us was officer candidate course, OCC. So we graduate, and then we have a few weeks to go till we start the basic school, TBS at Quantico.
Okay.
Come back home for a couple of weeks, continue to work out, get ready to go back to
What was
Quantico.
it like coming home? Were you glad to come home and glad to see you?
Yeah, it was nice to come back home for a couple of
Did
weeks.
you look at things differently though?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, I think that's anything with life. You have a certain experience, and you come back after 10 weeks. It's, hey, I see things a little different now.
Yeah. So you're talking sports with your buddies and you're seeing your friends, right? And get some of the guys from Wagner, but you're going like in a little bit of a different direction. Right?
Oh, much different. Because again, I think I was really the only one that joined the military. So it's a unique experience. And of course, there's lots of questions of what you're doing there. So.
Sure. And it stays with you.
Yes.
Right? So, all right. So now you go to your, I guess it would be considered almost like an AIT, right? In terms of your own training on top of being an officer, right? So now where do you go for infantry school or?
So it's the basic school is a pretty much a basic infantry officer course, and it's 6 months long. It ends up being a little bit longer because of the holidays. So we start shoot, move, and communicate. You go at the rifle range for a couple of weeks. You shoot the rifle, the pistol, land navigation, communications, Marine Corps martial arts. You're humping out everywhere that you go. You're putting the gear on and going. You're doing a lot of coursework. So they say it's about 2.5 years of college into 6 months. So it's constantly go, 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 go. You learn some tactics. You're in the field. You start with one night, and then you go up to a week out in the fields, jungle warfare.
And this was all in Quantico?
All in Quantico.
All in Quantico, so.
Yep, going out to military operations in urban terrain. Just a ton of different topics from military history, the strategy, the tactics, the operational level, all of it.
Do you ever find yourself, because now you're a lieutenant colonel, you're getting kind of towards the senior end of the rank, right? Do you ever go back to Quantico?
Yes, definitely. So I've had a couple of units that were out of there. So I've been back there. I mean, I remember, I think I was graduating TBS, and my parents were down there, and we're in the PX. And my mom's there, my dad's there, we're walking around, a major comes by. I'm a second lieutenant. And my mom starts talking to this major. I'm going, oh my God, Mom, please walk away. Please walk away. Because you're like, a major is so high up.
Sure.
Let alone a lieutenant colonel. So all of a sudden you turn around as a lieutenant colonel now and go, oh my gosh, I'm there now. How did that happen?
Yeah, sure. It goes by pretty quick. And you got a lot of rank in a pretty short period of time as well, right? From 2008, 2025. You did a good job doing your job and getting promoted along the way and your responsibilities, right?
Just doing what you got to do.
Now, when you go down to Quantico, right, what's the reminder that you have when you're down there? You're down there with your guys, right? You're down there with your Marines. But you ever look around and say, is there ever a fond memory down there?
There's lots of fond memories because there's friends that you just have for life. Even if you don't talk to each other for a while, it's lifelong friendships. Sure. I think there's no better bond than being tortured together. Yeah, definitely a lot of that there.
Yeah, so Quantico, that's a serious place, right? For
the
Marines, and a lot of other government agencies are there as well, right?
Yeah, and the Marine Corps Museum is pretty much across the street from the base, which is an amazing museum.
Which Michael Curtin, who passed away from Rocky Point on 9/11, they have a huge exhibit of him down there. So I'd like to check that out, someday. Yeah. So now you get done with a lot of the infantry training and the support, right? And all the different facets. Where do you go after that?
So I was assigned as a logistics officer. So myself and a bunch of other second lieutenants, we got sent to logistics officers course, Camp Geiger, which is right next to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. So go back to home, pack up a few things, drive down to North Carolina. My parents were pretty much living in South Carolina at the time, a couple hours away from the base, so that was nice. But got down there and kicked up, I think it was 8 or 10 weeks of logistics officers course. While we're there, we find out where we're going to be assigned to, and that's when I found out I'd be assigned to Camp Pendleton. Okay,
now with the logistics, you're driving trucks, or how to handle them, or lead them, or
we
jeeps,
we don't drive as officers. Okay. I think there's a thing with insurance that says we can't drive. I guess some officers don't know how to drive, but so we do truck platoons, convoys, to figuring out maintenance, the maintenance cycle, all the logistical aspects, such as, hey, we have to support this infantry unit. Where do we think they are with their food, their chow, their bullets?
So you're handling supply as well?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Supply falls under the logistics.
Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy learning about the logistics?
It has paid off as I got older. I think you hear a lot the same with World War II, is that certain people will focus on tactics, but strategists understand logistics.
Sure.
And a theory is that Hitler lost World War II because he didn't know logistics. I think that is a absolutely on point issue, because sure, you can push a military further and further out, but how are you going to sustain them if you can't feed them, if you can't keep them energized, you can't provide the equipment that they need to continue the fight?
Yeah. What was that during World War II, the Red Ball Express, right, with the trucks and everything?
Yes.
And them trying to get different ports and airfields as they were moving further east, right, into Germany. So I guess that was one of the big things with the Battle of the Bulge was Antwerp, right, that they were trying to create that bulge itself and pushed Allies back away from their supplies and everything else. And they were able to hurt a little bit, but not completely carried out, and
Yeah.
and you see all those resources in World War II, right, going in, and that was like on Band of Brothers, right, on the Autobahn. The Germans are coming one way, the Americans are going, and it's just convoys of trucks and resources and tanks and fuel and this and that, and they couldn't match it.
Equipment can't go anywhere without fuel.
Yeah,
It's the same thing with people. You can't go anywhere without having proper hydration and nutrition.
Sure. Okay. All right. So we're going to come back for a second episode here with Lieutenant Colonel Chad Lennon on the fog of war and humanity.